Imagine a company so powerful, so innovative. It was hailed as the future of business. A titan of industry, with a market value soaring to nearly $70 billion. This was Enron. And in less than a year, it all came crashing down in one of the most infamous scandals in corporate history. How did it happen? How did a company that seemingly had it all lose everything? Today, we're diving deep into the spectacular rise and catastrophic fall of Enron. Our story begins in 1985. When Kenneth Lay merged to natural gas pipeline companies, Houston Natural Gas and Internorth, to form Enron. Initially, Enron was just a traditional energy company, transporting and selling gas. But Ken Lay had a much bigger vision. He wanted to revolutionize the energy market. He brought in a brilliant, ambitious consultant from McKinsey & Company named Jeffrey Skilling. Skilling's big idea was to create a gas bank, where Enron would act as a middleman, buying gas from a network of suppliers and selling it to a network of consumers, guaranteeing prices and supply. This transformed natural gas from a physical commodity into a financial instrument, something that could be traded like stocks and bonds. The idea was a massive success. Enron quickly dominated the natural gas market. Wall Street loved them. Their stock price skyrocketed. And they were named America's most innovative company by Fortune magazine for 6 years in a row. They expanded aggressively, venturing into electricity, coal, paper, and even broadband internet services. On the surface, Enron was an unstoppable force, a new kind of company for the 21st century. Their Houston headquarters was a monument to their success, a gleaming tower buzzing with energy and ambition. They hired the best and brightest graduates, fostering a hyper-competitive rank and yank culture where the top performers were lavishly rewarded, and the bottom 10 to 15% were fired each year. The pressure to deliver, to constantly show growth and profits, was immense. But behind the shiny facade, a dark secret was brewing. The profits weren't always real. To keep Wall Street happy and the stock price climbing, Enron had to meet or beat earnings expectations every single quarter. When their actual business ventures started to fail, like their disastrous foray into the Indian power market or their overhyped broadband network, they didn't admit it. Instead, they got creative with their accounting. This is where Chief Financial Officer Andrew Fastow enters the picture. Fastow was the architect of a complex and deceptive financial structure. He created hundreds of special-purpose entities, or SPEs, which were essentially shell companies. That's how it worked. Enron would use these off-the-books companies to hide its massive debts and inflate its earnings. They would sell underperforming assets to these SPEs, recording a profit on the sale, even though Enron still effectively controlled the assets and the associated debt. It was like moving your credit card debt into a shoebox under your bed, and then telling the bank, you read debt-free. Fastow even named some of these entities with inside jokes, like JEDI, named after Star Wars, and Chuco, after Chewbacca. He personally invested in and ran many of these partnerships, creating a massive conflict of interest where he was making millions of dollars on the side from the very deals designed to deceive Enron's own investors. This financial engineering became known as Mark II market accounting. In simple terms, it allowed Enron to book potential future profits from a long-term deal as actual income the moment the deal was signed. So, if they signed a 20-year energy contract, they could estimate the total profit over those 20 years and put it all on their books for the current quarter. The problem was, these future profits were just guesses. If the market changed or the deal went sour, those profits would never materialize. It created a vicious cycle. To cover the losses from old deals, they had to make bigger, riskier new deals to book even more imaginary future profits. The company was becoming a house of cards, built on a foundation of lies and debt. For a while, the illusion held. Analysts, auditors, and the media were all captivated by the Enron myth. Arthur Andersen, one of the top 5 accounting firms in the world at the time, was Enron's auditor. They were supposed to be the independent watchdog, but instead, they were deeply complicit. Enron was a huge client for them, paying them millions, not just for auditing, but also for consulting services. They looked the other way, approved the shady accounting practices, and helped Enron maintain its fraudulent image. The watchdogs weren't watching. They were getting paid to look away. The first cracks began to appear in early 2001. A Fortune magazine article by a writer named Bethany McLean questioned how exactly Enron was making its money. The article, titled, "Is Enron Overpriced?" pointed out that no one on Wall Street really understood their financial statements and that the company's value was incredibly high compared to its reported earnings. The question was simple, but no one at Enron could give a straight answer. Then, in a move that stunned investors, Jeffrey Skilling, who had just become CEO 6 months earlier, abruptly resigned in August 2001, citing personal reasons. The captain was abandoning a ship he knew was sinking. The real unraveling began in the fall. In October 2001, Enron announced a staggering third-quarter loss of $638 million. More alarmingly, they also announced they were writing down shareholder equity by $1.2 billion, revealing for the first time the hidden losses tied to Fasto's partnerships. Panic set in. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, launched an investigation. The house of cards was wobbling. As the investigation deepened, the full scale of the fraud was exposed. Enron was forced to restate its earnings for the past 5 years, wiping out over $500 million in reported profits. The truth was out. The profits were never real. The company's stock, which had traded at over $90 a share just a year earlier, became virtually worthless. On December 2, 2001, Enron filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. It was the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history at the time. The fallout was devastating. Thousands of employees lost their jobs and their life savings, which were tied up in Enron stock and their 401k retirement plans. Investors lost billions. The shockwaves were felt throughout the entire economy, shaking public trust in corporate America to its core. What followed was a series of high-profile criminal investigations and trials. Arthur Andersen, the accounting firm, was found guilty of obstruction of justice for shredding tons of Enron-related documents and effectively collapsed. The top executives faced the music. Andrew Fasto, the CFO, pleaded guilty and cooperated with prosecutors, receiving a 6-year prison sentence. Jeffrey Skilling was convicted of multiple counts of fraud and insider trading and was sentenced to 24 years, though it was later reduced. Kenneth Lay, the founder and chairman, was also convicted, but he died of a heart attack before his sentencing. The Enron scandal was more than just a story of corporate greed. It was a systemic failure. It exposed deep flaws in accounting practices, corporate governance, and regulatory oversight. In response, the U.S. Congress passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. In 2002, this landmark legislation introduced sweeping reforms to protect investors, requiring stricter financial reporting standards and holding corporate executives personally accountable for the accuracy of their company's financial statements. Today, the name Enron is synonymous with corporate fraud. It serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, the pressure for short-term results, and the corrupting influence of greed. It reminds us that integrity and transparency are not just buzzwords. They are the bedrock of a trustworthy and sustainable market. The gleaming Enron Tower in Houston still stands, but it's now a symbol of a different kind, a tombstone, for a company that flew too close to the sun on wings made of lies. Thank you so much for watching. The Enron story is complex, and we've just scratched the surface. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating stories from history and business. Let me know in the comments what other corporate scandals you'd like to see covered. See you in the next one.